Everybody can listen to the podcast. Or Hey, BillO'Reilly.com premium members, welcome to the No Spin News, Thursday, the 27th of April, 2017. This is the last night that everybody can listen to the podcast or the broadcast, whatever you want to call it, on BillO'Reilly.com, unless you become a premium member, which is a simple process. And we hope you do that because it's a lot of fun. And you get a free book, and so it's not expensive and all of that. So I hope you consider it and sign up, because we will be here Monday through Thursday with our audio broadcast, and we are working on making it a video display. So we're going to expand the concept on BillO'Reilly.com and maybe go into some other networks as well. This is all new, but we're glad you're in for the initial ride here. Okay, so the tax cuts is, for me, the big story of the week, because it affects every single American who works or is retired in every circumstance. And I think President Trump did fulfill his campaign promise with simplifying the situation. Now, I got a couple of questions from listeners, and I'm going to read the question and answer them, and then give you an idea of what I think is going to happen going forward. We're also going to get into the Ann Coulter situation, another crazy thing on an airline, Delta Airlines this time, and we have some really rollicking mails. We got a good segment for you tonight. Okay, so this is from Ignaz, who lives in DeForest, Wisconsin. It says, Bill, doubling the standard deduction will be enough to make up for losing the state tax deduction. People in super high tax states, such as New York or Wisconsin, may take a hit. That's true. So if it passes the way President Trump wants it, you would no longer be able to deduct from your income tax state and local taxes. All right, so you just pay a straight shot. And for the upper bracket, it would be 35%, down from about 40. And then in the middle, 25, and then 15 at the end. And then you get $24,000 free. You don't have to pay on the first $24,000. So it's not a break for the wealthy, and I'm sure they put that in there to blunt the Democrats, because they need some votes to pass the tax cuts. It'll be a brawl, but I think they'll get it done. So Francis in Gulf Shores, Alabama says, Bill, in your synopsis of the tax plan, you primarily talked about married couples and businesses. I'm widowed. Where do I fit in? Depends how much you make, Francis. How much you're taking in. I say if you're below $100,000, you're going to get money back. All right? If you're above $100,000 as a widowed lady, it's going to be probably a wash. If you're a millionaire and that you have millions coming in, you pay a little bit more. So I think people will be happy overall with this. And you have to basically look out on how good it is for the economy. Excuse me. If it passes, the economy flies. It flies because there'll be so much more money in consumers' pockets and in business pockets. Okay, let's go to Chicago. Very underreported story, and with racial overtones all over the place. So far this year, ready? More than 1,000 shooting victims. More than 1,000 in Chicago. That's hard to believe on April 27th. 174 dead. All right? So this is not getting any better. And the news media doesn't want to report it because it's African-American driven. And the city of Chicago and Cook County and the state of Illinois are incompetent. Okay? So what do we do? President Trump said he was going to get involved, but so far has not really laid out his vision. Attorney General Sessions could send in people, more U.S. attorneys, more FBI, all of that. But I'll tell you what, this is not going to stop until the National Guard is deployed in the areas where these shootings are happening. There's only a few. This is not a citywide problem in Chicago. So if I'm the governor, I put the Guard in there to basically patrol the streets in the name of public safety to help the police. Just the fact that the Guard's there inhibits the gangbangers from going out and shooting people. All right? Now, the guard can't arrest, but they can detain. Same thing happened at the border. When the Trump administration announced that it was cracking down on illegal immigration, border flow was cut in half because people say, you know what, not worth it for me to pay all this money, get smuggled across the border, I'm going to get sent right back if I'm caught. Same thing will happen in Chicago. It's not worth it going out on the street with a gun when I've got armed soldiers patrolling the neighborhood. You don't have to do that for a long period of time, but you have to do it until the state of Illinois can reorganize, and there should be cops all over the place, flood the zone. Now, why isn't this done? Because it's black people. It's black people. And in our country, there doesn't seem to be an urgency to deal with this kind of a thing. If it were in Beverly Hills, I mean, oh my God, you can imagine. That being said, the black activists, Black Lives Matter, Sharpton, all these people, they don't care because it doesn't feed into their grievance industry. You know, what's the grievance? Black gang members shooting other blacks should be a grievance, but it isn't because there's no money in it for the activists who feed off that. So what you have poor, good people, church-going people, elderly people, little children who live in these neighborhoods who have to fear for their lives every time they go outside. Does that sound like an America you want to live in? It's so appalling. I've covered this story from the first time we learned about it, 5 or 6 years ago. It's not getting better, and there's nobody doing anything about it. So I make a direct appeal to President Trump to do what you can and to put pressure on the idiot governor of Illinois, who is an absolute fool, Ramner, I think his name is, something like that, to put the guard on the street. Oh, my God. It's just, watch this thing over and over, month in, month out. It's painful to watch this. Painful. Should not be happening in America. All right, Ann Coulter was canceled at UC Berkeley because there would have been violence. And I said that Ann's a very courageous woman. And, she would have appeared if the authorities at that college had allowed her to. And they did not. So some liberal people came out and said, oh, that's terrible. But that's phony to me. I'm sorry. I mean, this is going on all over. Ann Coulter's a big name, and that's why it gets a lot of publicity. It's going on all over the country. It has been going on for 3 or 4 years, this fascism on the left. And we don't see, Elizabeth Warren says, oh, the protesters may have gone too far. Oh, come on. Give me a break. So we all know what's going on there. And I have a couple of questions on the viewer mail about it, and I'll answer them. Now, here's a very interesting situation that just shows you how the airline industry in America has deteriorated. Okay. So we have a Delta Airlines flight, and it's going from Atlanta to Milwaukee, all right, on April 18th. And it's stuck on the tarmac, not moving, as happens many, many times. So it's stuck on the tarmac, not moving, as happens many, many times. So after, I think, 2 hours, all right, the guy has to go to the bathroom. And the flight attendant says, no, you can't, because we're on an active runway. That's the rule. But he has to go, and he doesn't want to soil himself. So he runs into the bathroom, all right? And he comes out about a minute later, eyewitnesses say, and he's escorted off the plane. He's kicked off the flight, along with everybody else. Everybody has to get off the flight, okay? And then they let everybody else back on, but they don't let Kima Hamilton, 39 years old, resident of Milwaukee. He can't fly, so he has to buy a ticket on another airline, Southwest, 3 times the price to get back home. Okay, so now what do you do? What do you do? There are rules, and the rules are there for safety. But if a guy is in an emergency, the emergency has to override the rules. All right? And the flight attendants have to use common sense. Because if the guy, he's sitting there, everybody knows it's a long slog. It's not like it was there for 20 minutes. It's long. And he has to go. You got to let him go. You got to. And you tell a pilot, don't move the plane until he comes out, or whatever you have to do to protect all the passengers. See, it's common sense. This is what was happening at the American airline industry has lost common sense. It's common sense. Now, after that debacle on the United flight where the guy was dragged off the plane because he wouldn't give up a seat and it was overbooked, now United has instituted a new policy that says they'll give you $10,000, up to $10,000. And that'll solve the problem, because if you're overbooked and you offer somebody, $5 to $10 grand, they're going to be takers. They're going to be takers on that. But again, it is I don't know about you, but I have the Global Pass and I go to the airport. I can get in quick and all of that. But I just don't like it. And I used to fly everywhere when I was a correspondent. But I just don't like it. It's uncomfortable. It's not an enjoyable experience. And it's not any one thing. It's accumulation of things. It's very, very tough to fly in America, and it should not be. Again, this is the most sophisticated country in the world. All right, let's get to some of the letters here. And we really appreciate you guys hanging with us the first week on the No Spin News. Very nice of you to do that. We think we provide a unique perspective on the news, by the way. And as I said in the beginning of this broadcast, we're going to expand it. So we're going to expand it. A lot of people interested. I'm taking my time. There's a lot of things that I have to clear up, as I mentioned on Monday when I first came on the air. A lot of things in play. And we will. And you'll know what the deal is. So Sasha from Vallejo, California, in the Bay Area writes, "Hey, Bill, so good to hear your voice and valuable insights again. I missed you. I think Senator Cruz's idea is a good one, to take drug cartel money that's seized and put it through the border wall. Also, we might be able to get a wall bond." That's not a bad idea, Sasha. Government can sell bonds on any project they want. Municipal bonds are sold everywhere and around the country. A wall bond, that could be a way. But there is money in the Homeland Security budget to at least get the wall started, and that's what President Trump has to do. He's got to start it, and then we'll see where it goes. All right, George is in Seven Hills, Ohio. And George and Sasha, by the way, are on the message boards. So if you're a BillO'Reilly.com premium member, you go on the message boards, and you write that to me. Another great podcast, The Anarchy and Fascism Being Promoted and Professed on College Campuses by Professors and Students, is disturbing. Not sure how our society has been dragged down to this level. It took, about 10 years for the secular progressives to overwhelm the traditionalists in the media and in academia. All right, it used to be like an even brawl when I started Factor. It was like even. Media always tilted left, but they weren't advocates. Now they are advocates of the PC culture, of the snowflake culture, which we write about in Old School, Life in the Sane Lane, which you need to read. And if you have an old school mom or grandmom, give it to them for Mother's Day. Anyway, so it started about 10 years ago. It started to shift, and now it's totally out of control. Edith in Wilmington, North Carolina, the NYU professor with the made-up words delegitimize freedom of speech. What does that even mean? It means that when this professor, if you weren't here yesterday, and by the way, you can hear all the podcasts on BillO'Reilly.com because we file them and you can just hear them if you miss a day. The guy at NYU, the provo, wrote an op-ed in the New York Times, of course, and said it's okay to delegitimize speech, which means that if Ann Coulter, Bill O'Reilly, and by the way, you can hear all the podcasts on BillO'Reilly.com because we file them and you can just hear them if you miss a day. The guy at NYU, the provo, wrote an op-ed in the New York Times, of course, and said it's okay to delegitimize speech, which means that if Ann Coulter, Bill O'Reilly, somebody else says something you don't like or you disagree with, that's not legitimate. And we slap a label of delegitimate on it. Therefore, you're not entitled to speak at any college or public forum. We can disrupt you. We can ban you. I mean, this is Stalin stuff. This is Stalin stuff. This is what they did in the Soviet Union. It's unbelievable. Deidre, Northridge, California. Bill, enjoying the podcast. So glad we have it. I read Old School and thoroughly enjoyed it. I was cracking up. Those were the good old days. Some of them were the good old days, Deidre. 50s, 60s, early 70s. Vietnam happened. Civil rights was not what it should have been. So it wasn't across the board, but the general feeling of America's a good country, even though we make mistakes, the admiration of Judeo-Christian philosophy and how it strengthens society, all of that was accepted. And that was the good old days, because now it's not. It's being torn down, kicked in the face, all right? Mocked and derided on television. Never could have happened back then. All right, now here is the email situation. And this is, now you can send us directly emails. Let me get the address on that. Bill@BillO'Reilly.com. I couldn't remember that. Oh, it's sad. So here's Leslie in Harv, Montana. I haven't heard any info lately on wiretapping and the unmasking of the Trump team by Susan Rice, allegedly by Susan Rice, or anything new to report. That story died fast. Not exactly sure why it did. I don't know, I have to say. And I'm going to look into it. We'll look into it to see, that the Congress is just back this week from Easter break, 2 weeks off. So the hearings, I assume, will resume. And once the hearings resume, Leslie, then that'll come back. So I think that's the situation. Roger Smith, I'm enjoying the podcast. And I really like the fact that I can listen anywhere, anytime. That's the advantage. That's the advantage. Anytime, anywhere, you pump up BillO'Reilly.com, you can hear this. Carol in Surprise, Arizona. I immediately signed up as a premium member once I heard the first podcast. I enjoy hearing your analysis of the news, Bill. It's much better than the alternatives. Well, I appreciate that. We, as I said, we give you a unique view, and we're not afraid. We've never been afraid. We paid a price for that. It's okay. So now we're going to expand the franchise where we don't have to cater. We can just let it fly. Ryan Johnson, Turlock, California. President Obama getting paid to speak after holding public office is not capitalism, it's crony capitalism. I disagree with you, Bill. You know what? All the presidents do this. They leave office, they make $1 gazillion. I don't begrudge that. I don't begrudge it. Ken Mancini, Downington, Pennsylvania. My wife and I listen to the podcast with notepads. All right? And I kind of like when my parents listen to FDR's fireside chats. It's a good analogy. Used to be the radio-dominated communications in America. Everybody centered around a radio, and they listened to Fibber McGee and Molly and Ozzie and Harriet, and FDR came on with his fireside chats, and it's a much calmer time. Now we have the hyper world of TV and the hyper world of the internet in which we are participating. I just want to remind you that for Mom and Dad's Day, Killing the Rising Sun, Old School, Life in the Sane Lane, and the tour, the No Spin Tour, Baltimore, Royal Farms Arena, Friday, September 22nd. Tampa, Amalie Arena, Saturday, September 23rd. Vegas, Caesars Palace, December 15th. And Anaheim at the Honda Center Big Show, December 16th. Those tickets for Mom and Dad, that's an unforgettable experience with Miller Waters and me. It's unforgettable. So we hope you think about that. Have a great weekend. We'll be back here on Monday.